This is a download from BFM 89.9, the business station.
BFM 89.9, thank you for staying tuned. I'm Shouning, and this is the Morning Run with Lynn Mark. It is now 7:17 in the morning, Monday, the 12th of October. In about half an hour, we'll be speaking to Charles Santiago, the Member of Parliament for Klang, on the Conditional Movement Control Order, or CMCO, that has been imposed and how that's affecting his constituency. But in the meantime, let's turn our attention to Sabah, because the dust may have settled on the state elections, but politics continues to throw us new surprises. So despite not contesting in the polls, PAS has been given a seat in the state assembly. The Sabah State Constitution allows for 6 assemblymen to be nominated to the legislature, and PAS State Secretary Ali Akbar Gulasan was appointed to one of those seats in the face of objections from other parties in the Gabungan Rakyat Sabah coalition. Meanwhile, the challenge for Sabah's Chief Minister Datuk Sri Hajiji Muhammad Noor is maintaining the peace. The challenge is for him to maintain the peace between UMNO and Bersatu in the state government, a dynamic evident in the wrangling for cabinet seats. And to top it off, the Chief Minister has tested positive for COVID-19, which adds to the complications of governing the state, at least in the short term. So for some analysis on what these developments mean for Sabah, we speak to James Chin, Professor of Asian Studies at the University of Tasmania, and of course a long-time commentator of Malaysian politics. Always good to have you on, James. Now, PAS is seen by both sides of the political divide as an unwelcome presence in Sabah. So why has the Chief Minister nominated PAS to the State Assembly even though coalition members STAR and PBS are opposed?
Good morning. So I think PAS was appointed because they did not really have a choice. As many of your listeners know, PAS did not stand in this election. And one of the deals that was done prior to the election was that if GRS won the election, PAS will be given a seat under the nominated scheme. And also the way it works in the Sabah Constitution is that the nomination for these 6 additional seats in the Sabah Dun is at the prerogative of the Chief Minister. So really, despite the objections from all the other parties, I don't think they really stood a chance. I think PAS was very clear. We stay out the elections. We don't create any trouble. If you guys win, we get one of our people into the Sabah Dewan Undangan Negeri. And that's exactly what happened.
Do you see this nomination having any impact on the politics of Sabah, though, in the State Assembly?
Yes, I do. I think we need to look at the impact from 2 perspectives. One is that PAS is now found in every Dewan Undangan Negeri other than Sarawak. So basically, PAS now has a foothold in East Malaysia. They never had it before. In fact, the overwhelming majority of PAS candidates in East Malaysia, Sabah and Sarawak, has always lost their deposit when they stood for elections. So this time, they turned the elections on its head. In other words, we don't contest, but if our allies win the election, we get in through the back door. So now the argument is that PAS is now a permanent feature in Sabah politics. Now that one of them have gotten the Dun, it's a lot harder to get them out of the Dun in the future.
And James, one other question, right? Because we know that UMNO did win more seats in the state polls. But as a compromise, UMNO seems to have been accorded the majority number of cabinet posts within Sabah. Now, how much control does Hajiji as Chief Minister have in determining state government policy given the dynamics at play then?
The way it works is that normally the leaders of the key political parties, Bersatu and UMNO, they will have sort of an informal meeting before the actual state cabinet meeting. So they will try to do the deals beforehand. If they can't come to agreement, then there will be lots of contentious issues being discussed in cabinet, and cabinet will either postpone the decision or they'll make a collective decision. If it is something that will have national implications, I'm sure they will consult the national leadership in Kuala Lumpur as well. So it is not so clear-cut that one can dominate the other, simply because they know that this government is very fragile. So my take is people like Hajiji and Bun Mokhtar, they will keep in very close touch with each other. And in any case, they've known each other for a very long time. So everyone is quite clear on what their sort of red lines are. So I don't think there'll be a problem in terms of these two parties. The bigger problem is actually with the Kadazan Dusun parties, because they want the Kadazan Dusun heartland, but a sizable portion of the what they call coastal Kedazan, and those from Penampang are actually with the other side, which is the Pakatan Harapan Warisan Plus government. So it looks like the major political issues in Sabah is actually the Warisan side more than anything else. Before we go any further, can I just say something which nobody wants to talk about, or they do not want to say it directly, and which is that the current wave that we see in Sabah in terms of the COVID-19 is directly caused by the PRN. So I think we have to be very careful when we think about holding elections in Malaysia. This is not a popular thing to say, but I think it has to be said. We all, trying to be very polite and say this is caused by this cluster, that cluster. But if you look at what's happening in Sabah overall, the only conclusion you can come up with is that the current wave hitting Sabah is caused by the PRN.
Yeah, and James, because of this current wave, right, and the fragility of state politics, I mean, what's the situation going to be like? Is there going to be enough focus in eradicating or, kind of bringing down the COVID-19 pandemic curve then? Can there be compromises between the different parties to focus on what's really important?
Look, I think the political leadership of both sides of the aisles really want to get this under control. Everybody understands the danger of COVID-19, and I'm not talking about the personal health thing, but the damage that it can do to the Malaysian economy. So I think they really want to do this, but Sabah is an extremely difficult place to do a lockdown for all sorts of reasons, mainly because they don't have the sort of infrastructure that you find in Malaya, especially in interior areas. It's very, very difficult to lock people down. Just as a very simple example that your listeners will understand, how do you lock kampong people down, right? Who's going to enforce the social distancing in a kampong situation, in the villages in the interior? So it's very, very difficult. So the trick is actually to control the spread in the urban areas before it gets any further. And I think they're doing that, but there are major problems, especially in terms of getting the necessary people into Sabah right now. My understanding is that the health system in Sabah is overstretched now, and they might need support from the other states. And I'm not sure it's coming in at a fast rate that we need in terms of trying to control the situation on the ground in Sabah.
And James, one last question before we let you go, right? Datuk Sri Anwar Ibrahim is supposed to meet the Agong tomorrow. Do you think we're going to see a change in government?
Right. I think I've told many people that, take a chill pill. Tomorrow's meeting is essentially a meeting where Datuk Sri Anwar is supposed to make his pitch to the Agong. In other words, he's trying to show the Agong that he has the numbers and that the Agong should appoint him as the Prime Minister. But there is a process that he has to go through. So there is no way that the Agong is going to make him the Prime Minister tomorrow. There is a process. For example, the Agong obviously has to consult his brother sultans. People keep forgetting that even though we are constitutional monarchy, the unique thing about the Malaysian system is that each of the sultans take a 5-year term being the Agong. So one is not superior to the other, so he has to consult them. And secondly, obviously, he has to have a meeting with the incumbent Prime Minister and see what the Prime Minister has to say. I know a lot of people have been attacking me saying that this is not true. Legally speaking, the Agong can appoint the Prime Minister. I'm not talking about the legal process. I'm talking about political conventions here. People keep forgetting the appointment of a Prime Minister, all these things. There's actually two realms. One is the political reality. The other is the constitutional or the legal aspects. What I'm talking about is the political reality. There is no way the Agong is going to announce that Datuk Sri Anwar will be the Prime Minister tomorrow. And
James,
if he doesn't, go ahead.
James, do you think he has the numbers though? Or is that the $1 million question?
Yes, I'll keep that opinion to myself.
So we'll just have to watch this space then in the meantime. Thank you for your time. That was James Chin, Professor of Asian Studies at the University of Tasmania, telling us that I guess there is the political realm and there's the legal realm. So it doesn't look, from his perspective, it doesn't look like Datuk Sri Anwar will be announced as the new Prime Minister tomorrow. But I think all of us will be looking at the headlines very closely on Tuesday to see, whether there are any further ramifications of this. But meanwhile, yes, I think issues are ahead in Sabah. It's good news, though, that James has pointed out that the political parties, despite the factions, are very keen on, flattening that pandemic curve. What did you think, Lynn?
Yeah, I think I was a little bit concerned by what James pointed out, was that the healthcare system in Sabah is starting to become overstretched. And then the worry is always that when you have a rise in COVID-19 cases, you want to ensure that your healthcare system doesn't get overwhelmed in any of these situations. So that's why, we have SOPs. So in the event that we do have a rise in cases, the ideal situation there is that it is manageable. And then, so if the healthcare system in Sabah is overstretched, then I guess the hope is that they'll be able to get aid in as soon as possible. Now, we've also been running a poll on the subject of Datuk Sri Anwar Ibrahim, actually, so asking you, would you support him as Prime Minister? The options were yes, but only through GE15, yes if he has MP support, no, this is a backdoor, or don't care. Of the 130 votes we've received so far, actually 51% have said yes if he has MP support, 19% only through GE15, 13% no, this is backdoor, 17% don't care, showcasing some political fatigue. But what James pointed out is true. It's the thing that we don't want to acknowledge whenever we talk about the need for GE15, the fact that the Sabah state elections did give rise to a lot of these COVID-19 cases. So are we in a position to hold snap elections at this point? Much as I would like them, I don't think so either.
Yeah, I think that's the million-dollar question. But up next, we'll be looking at Asian markets as we head into the fourth quarter of the year. That's going to be happening after the 7:30 a.m. news bulletin. Stay tuned for that. BFM 89.9.
Thank you for listening to this podcast. To find more great interviews, go to bfm.my or find us on iTunes. BFM 89.9, the business station.